Hi again, fellow unlicensed thinkers. Today I want to talk about the phrase, or the phrases, I guess you could say, of what did you mean by that, or what is that supposed to mean? And so this can be, in all sorts of contexts, like you might say, those people, or those idiots, or you're doing better than usual, or things like that can all be misconstrued based on what you think the other person means. And so how do these questions of what did you mean by that, or what is that supposed to mean, how does this relate to and assist you in doing your Jungian shadow work for uncovering things that are in your psychological shadow? So before I get into that, if you could hit the like button for me, I can't quite reach it from here. Thank you. So when you have the urge to ask one of these questions that is like, what did you mean by that? Pause for a second, because this is an opportunity for you. And take this opportunity, because as soon as you ask the question, the opportunity is ruined. Well, I suppose you can go back, but it's not as opportune a moment anymore. So instead, when you're getting ready to ask that question, what did you mean by that? First ask yourself, what did you assume they meant? Or what comes to your mind first? Because that's what really matters. Remember, we can't change other people. We can only change ourselves. We can only work on ourselves. We can try to work on other people, but it's really just going to be frustrating for everybody. So we can only work on ourselves. So you take this opportunity and you say, what comes to my mind when they say that? And who cares what they meant? Let's be perfectly honest. Does it matter what they meant? I suppose it does for the continuation of the conversation, but what are we talking about here? Are we talking about a conversation, or are we talking about personal growth and self-knowledge? And I'm usually more obsessed with the personal growth and self-knowledge, which explains why I'm here talking to you. So this is part of doing this Jungian shadow work, this psychological shadow uncovering and integration. So what it does is, when you ask yourself, what did I assume they meant, or what came to my mind, I'm uncovering something that is hiding in my shadow. So if someone says, those people, and I immediately go to a particular race, well, that tells me something about myself, doesn't it? That tells me that whatever they said before that, whatever they said applies to those people, is what I think of that particular race, or that particular gender, or that particular group of people, or something like that. So what I assumed that they meant right off the bat is what is actually in my mind. And that's a hard thing to accept, but it is the truth. And you will see this when you start changing your thinking around to being more positive, and someone says something about those people, well, now you narrow it down to those people who act that way. So those people who are criminals. I'm not tying criminals to any particular race when I'm in a more positive state. But as soon as I assume that someone else is talking about race, that's where I have something in my shadow that I need to work to uncover. Because prior to that, when they say those people act like criminals, well, I think race, but what I really want to think is, and when I'm in a more positive state of mind, what I really think is those criminals act like criminals. So consider that. Just something to think about as you're getting into your shadow work. Because remember, you don't just sit down and say, I'm going to do shadow work today. Shadow work just sort of happens as you live your life. And so that's a part of you that you need to understand. And I'm not saying right, wrong, good, bad. That's all, that's all covered in whether or not you get offended by something, whether or not you like an aspect of yourself. But nevertheless, it is a shadow aspect of yourself. So this is a great opportunity to find that. Now, if I assume that someone meant something good, like I said, the phrase better than usual. You're doing better than usual. Well, if I assume something positive in that, I'm not necessarily going to have this strong desire to ask the person what they mean. If they say you're doing better than usual, and I just take it for what it is, and I say, oh, fantastic, I'm doing better than usual. Hey, go me, right? But if if I try to read into that negatively, then it takes on a different thing. So if I'm just looking at it positively, that means that that's what's in me, that there is a positive thing inside of me, and great, good for me. Let's keep going. So I don't even think to ask, what did you mean by that? If you're saying, hey, you're doing better than usual, I don't say, what do you mean by that? What do you mean I'm doing better than usual? But if I see it as something negative, if that's my first instinct, is the first thing that comes to mind is they mean something negative, then I would say, when they say you're doing better than usual, I'd say, what do you mean I usually suck? And so you see where they have just made a statement. It's how I interpret that statement. And we do this throughout our lives, throughout our days, all the time, everywhere we go, everything people say, everything that happens, we interpret it through a filter. And part of that filter is our psychological shadow. So we need to be very aware of that. And this will help get us there. So when I jump to they meant something bad, I'm going to ask them to explain what they meant. But again, it doesn't really matter if they explain it. You know, it doesn't matter what they think, what they said. None of that really matters. It matters for the continuation of the conversation. But as far as, am I going to fix that person by knowing what they meant? No. I am going to fix me by understanding what I heard. Okay, so when I try to get someone to explain what they meant by that, what I'm really doing is I'm trying to get them to say some words that allow me to push blame for how I feel, for what I thought, for what my assumptions were. I want them to say some words that allow me to push that blame onto them. See what I mean? So I have this feeling. I have this feeling that they meant something racist. They meant something sexist. But what I'm doing is I'm trying to get them to say the words so that I don't have to deal with why that was my assumption. Now, it's my assumption because I have that negative aspect in my shadow. But I don't want to deal with it in my shadow. I want to push it off there so I can say that's that person, that's them. They suck, they're evil, they're bad. Instead of saying, oh crap, now I got something evil, bad, wrong, mean, whatever inside of me. But that's the truth of the matter. So if I can get them to take on that responsibility by explaining what they meant or what they were supposed to mean or whatever, then I don't have to look internally. Then it's all on them. It's all their fault. It's all they're doing. It's all their problem. They're the bad one. I'm not the bad one. I'm such a good person. I'm such a freaking saint. Oh my God, you wouldn't even believe it, right? So that doesn't get me anywhere. I need to figure out why I assumed they meant something bad. When I uncover that, then I'm actually uncovering something about myself. Then I'm actually growing. Then I'm actually becoming something more. And so I invite you to try this with other people too. So if someone says that to you, if they say, what did you mean by that? Or what is that supposed to mean? Ask them what they thought it meant. People hate this. They really do. They will get mad at you, and all you're doing is you're just asking, well, what did you get out of that? What did you assume that I meant? Why did you think I meant that? And you can actually uncover a lot about the other person. Again, you're not going to, you're not going to fix anything with that other person, but you can uncover what's going on inside their mind. You can uncover what's happening with them. And it's actually a pretty interesting phenomenon because you can watch them get mad just about what's going on inside them. And once you see it in somebody else, you can start to see it in yourself more. You can start to see when the shadow aspect creates anger, when that dissonance creates anger within another person, and you see what it looks like, it's easier then to recognize it when it happens to you. And so people will even lie. They'll say, well, I didn't think or assume anything. But that's not true because, again, if they had thought something positive, they never would have asked the question. The only reason they're asking the question of what did you mean by that is because they assumed you meant something negative. So that's an outright lie if they say, well, I didn't assume anything. Oh, but you did. Or we wouldn't be having this particular conversation right now. So Think about that with yourself. Again, remember, it's like, what did you mean by that? As soon as you're about to say those words or type those words or whatever, pause and say, wait, what did I just assume they meant? Why am I getting mad and trying to uncover something in them? What did they bring up in me? What emotion did they pull up? What thought did they pull up? What did I assume? What came to my mind first? When they say, what did you mean by that? Or, I mean, before I ask that question, before I ask, what did you mean by that? I want to know what they said before that and why it inspired me to ask that question. What anger did it bring up in me? What offense did it bring up in me? What horrible, mean thought did I think they meant? Because that's probably what I actually think deep down. And that's a hard pill to swallow, but man, if you can get it down, boy, does life feel a lot better. All right, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Be sure to hit like and share the video with someone else you think would enjoy it. Have a